You're in line for one more fine time.
Of course, I cough first right off the bat.
Yeah, keep it in.
Yeah, I will. Hello, party people. It's your boy Dre. And guess what? It's back. The dynamic duo of Dre and Trey. I'm back here with Trey.
Hello. I'm just gonna say hello. That's it. Seems like a nice greeting. Yeah, that's it.
You're worse than the guys on The Big Deal. You're worse. You're like, I mean, my God. I go to like, what's up, Kevin? And he's just like, huh? What? Are we doing a show? And Steve's like,
that's it.
Steve sometimes has a bit, you know, but Kevin won't help me.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're counting through what we're talking about today, you gotta, save your energy for all of this nonsense.
It's a bunch of nonsense. And basically, as the name implies, yes, I still say that, we are going to go through all the Game Award, Game of the Year nominees and the winner from each year from whenever it started, I guess 2014. And we're just going to go through them all and kind of relitigate them all and say anything that we remember from that year of big games, because quite frankly, I just thought it would be fun, Trey. And honestly, I didn't think of anyone else but you for this. Like when the idea popped in my head, you were right along with it.
Oh, that's very sweet.
I mean, it's true. Like, I mean, come on, this is built for us. Like, this topic is our shit, honestly.
And this would probably be right around the exact era where I was, just devouring nearly any sort of games media and anything like that. Getting back into everything after kind of tapering off during the 360 era. So, yeah, this would be prime for me, especially.
I think anyone in our relative age group tapered off in the 360 era because that era, man. It's whatever. That's another topic. That's a whole other podcast. Yeah, we're just gonna start here. We're gonna go through, like I said, we're gonna go through every year nominees, talk about the winner. Was that the correct choice? Talk about anything else from the year, etc. We're just gonna bullshit until we run out of steam or run out of years.
Yeah.
All right, let's start with 2014. The nominees were Bayonetta 2, Dark Souls 2, Hearthstone, Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, but the winner was Dragon Age Inquisition. Man, let's start with you. You seem to have thoughts right now. I can feel it radiating through the screen.
I don't think that was right. Bold take. I know. No, just what a busted year in general. Just, I know it was that very first year. Like, you kind of anticipate that the first year of a given console cycle. Like we've seen, like obviously this being the PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo, Wii Extra, as we call it.
Yes, Wii Extra. As everyone says, the common nomenclature, Wii Extra.
Yeah. Like it really just wasn't that strong of a year. Although I say that, and Bayonetta 2 is a very strong game.
Yeah, see, obviously that's my pick. Like, Bayonetta 2, obviously the best out of this list, if we're just picking from the nominees given. Hearthstone, though, that's kind of a shocker, just because, like, did we really recognize mobile? I guess there's a PC version of Hearthstone. But, like, come on, people think of that as something to play on your iPad, right? So I thought that was a weird one. Maybe just the pedigree of Blizzard at that time was just as such to be like, yeah, Hearthstone, of course.
Yeah, and at that same time, we could bring this up a lot, but as we brought up many a time, we're still in that weird era where video game companies were not sure that console video games were going to be, keeping it up, going forward. So like any mobile option that they had, I mean, I believe this is probably very close to the era when EA brought back Dungeon Keeper and everyone hated it.
Oh yeah, that's fucking right. Didn't they like they fucked it up somehow? I don't remember. Probably microtransactions, right? I don't even.
Pretty sure, yeah. Everybody genuinely thought that like the only games people would want to play would be not to be totally dismissive of it, because like Hearthstone at least is somewhat complex and interesting, but everybody thought that they were going to play like a Farmville, like where it's like, oh, you just do this for like an hour. But if you have, like, the shakes, you can pay us some money and we'll give you a few more hours,
It's amazing how every company, even Nintendo, got that wrong. Because, like, I don't think they even would have invested as... Like, yeah, Mario Kart Tour and, like, Super Mario Run and stuff did well for them. But it was just like, man, this, Miitomo game, we've got to set the world on fire with that. Like, everybody was just so scared, man. It was wild.
Yeah, or like something like even like a Tomodachi Life where, well, was Tomodachi Life on... No, that was on 3DS, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, never mind. Scrap that point.
No, but what a weird time this was, I mean, obviously from this year, I probably would have picked like Destiny or like Wolfenstein: The New Order or something like that. But like, in the moment, I don't remember this game or this year being bad. Because I guess it was like the first full year of the new systems, like you said. But honestly, it wasn't really that good in retrospect. Also, you remember when like everyone would try to tell you that Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze was like the best platformer of all time because they had Wii U Stockholm Syndrome? Like everybody was talking that game the fuck up. It's really good, but come on, guys. Like, please.
Yeah, that's a very generous read of that game. It is indeed very good, but it's not like... Wii U was definitely a console of games that I would argue are pretty good to very good. And by games, I mean like game, singular.
Yeah.
But like, you have a few really good ideas, and then immediately console sells like shit, and the system is kind of shitty, and it does better. It does better, oddly enough, when it gets way away from that console. Turns out.
Yep, kind of strange how that works out, huh? You got anything else on 2014 before we move on here?
Honestly, though, it does give me pause, though, in that sense. I've kind of brought that idea up at least. There are definitely, though, games in this era, like Bayonetta 2, I would argue, when it got that re-release a few years later on the Switch, and like more people actually got to play it, and realized it was kind of almost, it kind of made you realize that, especially, and the first games got this too, where they feel like a game that's more or less out of their era, out of time. Like, definitely Bayonetta 1, especially given what was popular at that time. But Bayonetta 2 as well, where Nintendo just has this knack of doing that sometimes, where it's like Bayonetta 2, Mario Maker, Mario Kart 8 especially. I mean, I know it's another Mario Kart, but like, I think it's very telling that once it got away from the Wii U, and once it got released on Switch, even if it is, quote unquote, the same game, but with the extras in it, people love the crap out of it, and they'll play it to now. Whereas I'm going to tell you, not a lot of people may be playing Dark Souls 2. They are not probably playing Dragon Age Inquisition or Middle Earth Shadow of Mordor, unless they're a super fan of those Dragon Age, especially. I know that there are those out there with that. So
I do remember Dragon Age Inquisition being really popular at the time, though. I mean, like, obviously, the Game Awards is largely a popularity contest because, of course, it is. Why? I mean, and it should be. By the way, that's not even necessarily a criticism. We know what these Game Awards are about, right? Or any award show.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. That's fine. It's just that, yeah, I remember, man. I feel like Dragon Age Inquisition was inescapable at that time. I just remember everyone I know playing it. Now, I don't fucking like BioWare, so I didn't even sniff that game. So,
yeah.
But whatever, yeah. I just remember it being a thing.
It would also be during a time when people still liked and thought highly of BioWare. So
Yeah.
I think that's also going to be one of the other symptoms of a lot of this stuff, where it's like a Dark Souls 2, our thoughts on it aside, I'm not really a Souls fan, and neither are you, but a lot of people still highly regard a From Software to where they could at least be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Or but like Middle Earth Shadow of Mordor, I don't know if people think of I keep getting, it's just Monolith, right? It's not Monolith Soft's the Xenoblade people, but
yes. Wait, so the people who make Shadow of Mordor are called Monolith as well?
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Monolith, and then the Xenoblade people are Monolith Soft. It's always like it's the same as like the two when Disney had the Avalanche Studios, and then there was the Avalanche Studios that made Just Cause, and they're just like, I don't know which one's which. Whatever.
Oh my god, that's gonna make my head swim. Okay, let's move on to 2015. Nominees for 2015 Game of the Year include Bloodborne, speaking of FromSoft, Fallout 4, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, and Super Mario Maker, but the winner was The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Can I make a confession right off the bat here? I always thought Wild Hunt was the name of like the DLC, so the game is just called Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess the DLC is called something else. Anyway,
yeah.
Can I hit you with something deep real quick, a philosophical question, if you will? Is Super Mario Maker really a game? Or is it just like a fun tool to play with? Like, I hesitate to include Super Mario Maker 2 in like favorite Switch games or favorite games of any kind. You notice I don't do that, even though I played that game for like 1,200 hours and I made 100 fucking courses in it. I don't do that because I hardly think of it as a game. Maybe that's just me. Do you agree? I don't know.
Yeah, like I would say it's tough because again, like we're so used to in this medium where someone says like, oh, this is like a big tool that can be used to make other things, and most of the time it ends up being stuff like Dreams or Little Big Planet, where you see the aspirations of what you're doing, but after a while you're kind of like, I don't know what this is. But like, you're just kind of you kind of like. I mean, Little Big Planet was a little bit more linear than that, but definitely Dreams is kind of like, I'm not sure what we're doing here.
Dreams is not a game. Dreams is not a game.
No.
Little Big Planet is more of a game, I would say. I would say it's more of a game than Super Mario Maker. That's not a diss on it. Obviously, I mean, Jesus Christ, do you know a bigger Mario Maker 2 fan than me? But, like, I hesitate to call it that. Anyway, everyone knows I am a Fallout 4 apologist, and I will not apologize for being a Fallout 4 apologist. And I love that game, and that's my favorite game of 2015. Read and weep. Too bad. I know what yours is, but you tell the people.
A little game called Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, which I've been willing to, I'm going to say that if for some reason at all that you've had any interest in a Metal Gear game, the podcast Sans Frontières that our good friend Manu and Brian did, where they've covered every game in the series, will sum it up way better than I can, but I love Kojima's weirdness. He always brings it, and honestly, 5 also has the thing where the actual game that you're playing feels great. It feels like a souped up Far Cry in a sense. Like, and that's not even dismissive to either of those games. Like, because you can kind of do, I feel like I'm not very good at stealth in like Far Cry, but I could do stealth very well in Metal Gear Solid. But, and it kind of, vice versa. But it like the way that they mapped everything out with that game, whether it's quote unquote complete or not, make that argument. And of course, famously, there was a big, one of the great controversies of recent memory being that this was the same award show where Konami forbid a departing Hideo Kojima to even go to the Game Awards.
I forgot about that.
So the man who accepted this award is, of course, one of the more beloved, creative minds around the Metal Gear franchise, Kiefer Sutherland.
Was that the start of Jeff Keighley and Hideo Kojima's bromance? I feel like this was it.
It might be. It might be.
I kind of feel like this was it. Now that you think, I forgot this was that year, and I remember all he tweeted was like, in both Japanese and English, all Kojima tweeted was "Thank you very much," and it got like 1 million retweets. Like literally, it was like fucking all it went insane over the internet. It was crazy.
Like Guillermo del Toro tweeting "fuck Konami" #fuck Konami at that time, which of course he has, with the Silent Hill stuff falling apart and all that, he has his other reasons for also tweeting that. But yeah, oh god, but yeah.
But can we talk? And we talked about this a little bit in 2014. We were talking about the year 2014 a second ago. But can we talk about the fact that how weird it is that From Software isn't treated like a Japanese developer in that sense, because they don't make like Japanese styled games. Like Dark Souls is not Final Fantasy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people don't think of that. They don't compartmentalize From Software as they're a Japanese dev, so they make games like this, because we were still doing that in 2015 a lot. Like the hangover from the 360 era of kind of just treating Japanese devs as second rate had not really gone away yet.
Yeah, and I don't know if you even want to go ahead and just run into this here. 2015 in general is such another one of those cases where I would say it's a weird year for these consoles, although I think we would both agree the releases were more interesting, but like we can even go back to like a year or two prior where it really felt like we had quite a few games that were like heavily anticipated and then they were just broken on arrival. Yeah. I'm thinking of like Halo, the Master Chief Collection. That may have been 2014, but
I feel like it
2014,
was,
2015 in that vague time frame. I feel like this is going to be a problem that we'll experience for like the first 2 or 3 years, is that these things all meld together. Like these years kind of do until you get to, oddly enough, the next year I would say is like the first year where I'd outright say like, okay, that's what this is. But like, you remember, and I guess this is still, we can tie this back to 2014. You remember how everyone was like talking about how broken Assassin's Creed Unity was that year?
Yeah.
Oh my, like faces and crap. And like, like that. And like, not that we hadn't experienced games that were that glitchy before necessarily, but it was like big games that had to have these day one patches, had to have all this stuff immediately, where there was such a whiplash effect to where people were just confused about like, why didn't this game work right? What's going on?
That was also the 30 frames a second. That was also the cinematic year. The 30 frames a second is cinematic. And that was also Ubisoft trying to, the parody thing. Oh, we made it 900p on PS4, so it'd be the same as Xbone. Like, fuck you guys. It was also that year too. It was a lot of weird shit.
Yeah, but to bring it back towards like 2015, it is interesting how From comes into this conversation, because like this is probably the year where it feels like the logic of the Game Awards most challenges itself, in the sense that like one thing I keep thinking of, and I guess maybe challenges itself a little bit of a stretch. Every year when they can get a chance to, there will be one Nintendo game that is there nominated. This year it was, I mean, Mario Maker obviously got the Game of the Year nomination, but Splatoon came out of nowhere, even though both of those games being on the Wii U, Splatoon was a huge freaking deal, and it
was a big deal, but it was Nintendo big. It wasn't like mainstream. It wasn't a big deal. Nobody, your mom didn't know what Splatoon was, you know. Mm-hmm. Like at that time, anyway, it would be like, yeah, F-Zero was like big in 1992 if you played video games. You know, I would argue that F-Zero was never really mainstream big at any point, but that's another conversation. Like, yeah, but you're never, by the time you get around to other stuff, it's like you have had time for people to have heard of F-Zero. Nobody had really heard of Splatoon yet, even though it was just selling on this system that nobody really cared about. So I guess that's the reason why. In my mind, this year was better than it was, but when you look at the releases, maybe it wasn't. Like, maybe I just played a lot of Destiny expansions and like a lot of indies on Vita and shit like that. Like, I don't know, man. I guess this is the result of when Sony is the only game in town for a few years, because Nintendo, like I said, Wii U, LOL, Xbone, LOL. Really, if you didn't have the PS4, I don't really know what you were doing out here in these streets. So,
I mean, let's see. Halo 5 and Call of Duty Black Ops 3. That's about it, buddy.
And we already said Splatoon and Mario. Oh my god. Before we move on to 2016, do you like how the idiots nowadays are like, the first Mario Maker was so special because blah, 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 like compared to Mario Maker 2? And it's like, I'm sorry you guys only had one system, and like Mario Maker, they had to make like such a big deal out of it because that's all they really had going on. But like, that doesn't make the first game better because you could like do stupid amiibo costumes. Like, get the complete fuck out of here. Like, no thanks.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I didn't play the first Mario Maker until way after its sell-by date, so I couldn't really tell you how I felt either way, but yeah, I feel like 2 is a way stronger game. Like, for just in general, just being able to make your own Mario world. I mean, I know that's kind of some of those aspects were in 1, but it really got amplified in 2, which, you know, we might get there.
We might.
I don't remember if it got nominated.
Yeah, I don't think it did, but we'll find out. Let's move on to 2016. The nominees for the 2016 Game of the Year include Doom, 2016, of course, Inside, Titanfall 2, Uncharted 4, but the winner was Overwatch, Trey. And I think anyone knows who listens to Fine Time, I'm an Overwatch head. I love Overwatch. I still play to this day. I play Overwatch 2 at least a few times a week. So yeah, that winning Game of the Year, kind of surprising to win over Uncharted 4, or like, I guess a dark horse one would have been like Titanfall 2 or Inside, but like, if you were to ask me off the top of my head, I would have definitely said Doom or Uncharted 4, not Overwatch, Trey.
Yeah, I really do like that Overwatch in general boiled down like a lot of stuff that you would see in like, you know, a Team Fortress or a Counter-Strike, but it would make it more sense, you know, like it's different from playing with these Team Fortress sickos, which I mean with love. Like, I'm not into Team Fortress, but I get it. It's what it is. You know,
it's a thing for a reason.
Yeah, but it translates that to console folks in a manner that makes sense. The game still feels great to play, and obviously still plays great now. Even like, think about how many, especially even with like Overwatch 2, where no matter how many years they teased us with the idea of Overwatch 2 and all the changes and all the crap and all of the PR blow up and all that stuff, and then Overwatch 2 happens and everybody's just like, oh yeah, it's still good. You're like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, all that consternation. Look, games change over time. There's balance changes. Characters' entire kits sometimes change over time. I can't believe I said the phrase kit because I never say that. That's so weird that I said that. But and obviously Overwatch 2 have moved to 5v5 instead of 6v6. There's been a lot of changes over time. I'm still here for Overwatch though. I still like it. So it's here. I think though this goes back to what we were saying about like Blizzard pedigree though, kind of with like the Hearthstone. It's like, well, it's Blizzard. It's got to be nominated. I don't feel like that's the reason why Overwatch is nominated, because I do legitimately feel, and it's easy to forget now, when Overwatch came out, that was a legit phenomenon.
Yeah,
it was.
It absolutely was. It like that easily was, and I mean, just in general, this year is a phenomenal year for shooters. Period. Like that. I'm still finding it hard to find a year that would like top it in my mind. Like I know you are more partial to its sequel, but Doom 2016 when it came out was a damn freight train of a game. Like just phenomenal. Changed a lot of concepts that kind of were getting old about shooters. The general, oh, you have to do a cover system. Oh, you have to do, have this. It's like, no, how about you do like a violent kill and get your health back and like play risky and try all of these things that you can do. And Titanfall 2 has honestly one of my favorite shooter campaigns in a game ever as well. Like I don't even know how to explain how good it is sometimes. But like it's both something that feels pretty good and yet somehow like I'm always kind of dubious on saying like, oh, this game's got a really good story, because like that's always a variable, a subjective thing.
Yep.
But as like a big over the top, I would just put it as like, I mean this again lovingly, kind of like an Iron Giant ripoff in a way. Like it's me and my big robot monster and all that stuff.
I don't know why I thought you were going to say big robot balls. I don't know why. I thought that's where you were going. Maybe that's where my mind was going.
Maybe it was. I don't know, but yeah, like that actual narrative worked for me. And even if it didn't, the game itself had enough of the cojones to do it right. I feel like it did that. I feel like it did the cliche that a lot of AAA games want to have now, where they're like, we're going to do a Hollywood story where we're going to have this pretty good writing and spectacle and all that stuff. It did that better than Uncharted 4 did.
Everything does everything better than Uncharted 4 did, but I'm not even going to get into that. This seems to be the only year where they completely ignore Nintendo, I think, like going on. I feel like there's Nintendo all up in this bitch, but which is fair. Like this was the year they showed up to E3 with just Breath of the Wild. Do you remember that shit? That was embarrassing.
Mm-hmm. Just Breath of the Wild and just Breath of the Wild on the Wii U, even though they were outright saying, oh yeah, it's going to be on the new console too, but we're not going to show you the new console, but we're not going to
show that till October, and we're not going to have a presentation on it till January. Then it's going to come out in March, and now we're going to sell 100 million plus units of it.
What a terrible move. They really messed that one up.
Yeah. This year, 2016, before we move on, really kicked off my live service fetish, I think, because The Division came out this year. I was still playing Destiny, and I was getting into Overwatch here. I feel like that's where I really was like, yeah, this is my lane now. Like, and I know people love to dunk on live service games, but I don't give a fuck. I love live service looter shooters or repeatable multiplayer things, whether it's Overwatch or Warframe. I'm sorry. I love it. It's a great model. I'm not saying the business model is always the best, and of course, if they fail hard. But like as a concept, I don't like when people just dismiss it out of hand.
Yeah, I mean it works perfectly for something like a Destiny, or even this is a much lesser extent, but like if like a Borderlands opted to fully go into that sort of model, I don't think that people would be that upset about that.
I think they should have. That was always my thing when Borderlands 3 was announced. I was like, okay, we're in a totally different world now. maybe. I feel like if they ever make another Borderlands, so it's going to absolutely do that. I don't think they have a choice. Maybe they do. Maybe they can just do another Borderlands 4 the same way they've always done it and whatever. Maybe I don't know shit. But
yeah, I greatly appreciate it way more when it's like shooters and something like a Fall Guys that do the live service thing, and not say every sports game that I have now, where they all are just like, hey, you want to play some like 12-year-old in NBA 2K? No, I don't want. I've got problems in my life. I don't want that noise.
I do. I am too fucking old to be called the N-word by a 12-year-old on the internet while playing fucking the Golden State Warriors on NBA 2K. I'm sorry. No thanks.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to 2017. The 2017 nominees for Game of the Year include Horizon Zero Dawn, Persona 5, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and Super Mario Odyssey. But the winner was The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I think you already know how I feel about this. Super Mario Odyssey is like not only the best game of 2017, it's the best game of the 2010s. That game is fucking phenomenal. And we were talking about how earlier how Nintendo just do what they do, right? Yeah. 3D platformers aren't a thing anymore. The best game of last decade is a 3D platformer. I mean, try that on for size.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous that they did that. Odyssey should have won over Breath of the Wild. I'm sorry. Odyssey got robbed, not only by the Game Awards, but by the general public as well. But Mario is better than Zelda. I'm sorry.
And, I mean, I also would argue Super Mario Odyssey is easily my favorite Mario since Mario World. So that's not like, that's, I mean, and yeah, that, and I like a lot of Mario now, but yeah, that's probably still like that, like those are the tippy top. I mean, I genuinely still think though, when you get classic Zelda, classic Mario in the same year, you can't lose with either. I mean, classic Sonic too. I know didn't get nominated, but Sonic Mania, of course.
Oh my God. Sonic Mania is also one of my favorite games ever. I mean, people talk up this year.
That's the best Sonic since Sonic 3.
Easy.
Actually, yeah, no, that's right. It is better than Sonic 3. Sonic 3's got some issues.
No, Sonic Mania is the best Sonic game. That's all there is to it. Look, people talk up this year, 2017, is one of the best years ever, and I agree. It is. It's not like where people talk up 98, and that is not one of the best years ever. I think 99 is better. I think 2000 is better. I think 2001 is way better. Anyway, that's another conversation, of course. I feel like I've been saying that a lot today. 2017 lives up to the hype from the beginning to the end. I mean, shit, I didn't even play Zero Dawn until the Rona, just because I didn't have time. Like, it came out at such a weird time. I still haven't played Persona 5.
Yeah.
Like, there was a bit of controversy about PUBG because it was a game in early access. Clearly, that didn't matter to anybody. It was nominated for Game of the Year. And that, I mean, you want to talk about a phenomenon. Holy shit. I feel like that's the first time this barrier was broken, right? Would we have ever, before this point, considered an early access game for Game of the Year?
That definitely was not a barrier that had been crossed by any means. But, like, this is one of those stories that people are going to just kind of somewhat forget, or at least they'll have to kind of connect the tissue to, you know, where it goes later with Battle Royale games. Mm-hmm. But yeah, PUBG is freaking crazy. But also, one thing I also keep thinking about when it comes to this list, these are 5... I know a lot of people will say Horizon Zero Dawn and Zelda are quote-unquote similar because they're third-person action games.
They are not similar at all. Not at all.
That's what I'm going to say. All 5 of these type of games are wholly unique in their genres. Like, to every extent. Persona 5 is a JRPG-ass JRPG. It really, like 100 hours... You are going to play this for the rest of your life, I guess. You're going to keep going. like, and admittedly, my own opinion of that particular game, at least in comparison to the other Personas and other Atlas works, it's kind of soured over the years. But I also can't deny that, like, Persona 4 Golden would not have been nominated or even got nominated on any of those lists.
Oh my God.
Or anything like that. And Persona 4 Golden and Persona 4 in general was, like, easily the most popular that series had ever been. And certainly that's not going to happen for, like, any Megaten games or anything like that.
Oh my God. Shin Megami Tensei 5 didn't stand a chance in 2000. Like, when did it come out? 2021? 21?
Yeah.
It didn't stand a chance. There's no way.
That game becoming as popular as it does, like, that's not even mentioning games that didn't get nominated, but definitely, especially among, like, our friend groups, are, like, famously memorable. Not to be that guy again, but, like, Nier Automata came out that year.
I still haven't played that shit. You believe that? I have not played it.
Yeah, it's fun. Look, man, you gotta be in a mood for it. And I don't know if you'll ever be in that mood.
I don't know. I haven't so far. I played the demo when it came out. I was like, oh, this is cool. I'll get around to it. I have never done it. So maybe I will sometime.
It does play better than, like, the original Nier, at least, because it turns out Platinum Games at that point.
What the fuck doesn't?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, like, it turns out Platinum Games knew how to make pretty good games at some points at this period of time.
Oh God, just yes, when they knew what they were doing. I'm not sure that they do right now, but yeah, man, shit. Can we, like, just a little more about 2017 before we move on? Like,
mm-hmm.
I cannot still in my brain can't compute that, like, ARMS and Splatoon 2 came out within, like, what, 3 weeks of each other?
Mm-hmm.
Fire Emblem Warriors came out the week before Mario Odyssey because they didn't have anywhere else on the slate for it. Oh, I guess we'll just put it here. Yo, man.
I'm starting to realize that probably the reason why they had the embarrassing thing in, like, 2016 is that they literally somehow, some very wise person went, okay, we are literally dumping every possible resource to getting games in that first year on the Switch, to the point that, like, Switch has had great years since, but it still is basking in, like, an afterglow of, as you said, like, of Xenoblade, Splatoon 2, which definitely way expanded that concept and honestly made it very palatable for a lot of people because, you know, they actually own the system this time.
I mean, yeah, no, you're right. It's just like right now they're in maintenance mode, right? Clearly, okay, let's remake Mario RPG. Let's remake Mario vs. Donkey Kong. Let's put out a fucking Peach game, I guess. Let's, you know, like,
Showtime!
Yeah, they are just doing stuff right now. Hey, another code? Oh, double pack? Sure. Let's put that out in January. They're doing everything right now to tide us over to the next system, which is great because Nintendo systems usually end really badly. The last year of a Nintendo system is always dog shit. That's not happening this time. So yeah. I'm glad that they realize that what I'm trying to say is that mentality of let's stack the Switch from the beginning is also carrying to let's have a steady stream of software no matter what it is. Let's not stop because we need to have momentum to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
oh yeah.
Anyway,
very much appreciated.
Oh, very, very. I'm looking forward to most of the games I just said. Okay, 2018. The nominees include Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Celeste, Marvel Spider-Man, Monster Hunter World, and Red Dead Redemption 2. But the winner was God of War. This is the year they moved to 6 nominees, as you can tell by me reading that. Correct choice, I guess. Out of these nominees, not a whole lot for me. I guess I would pick Spider-Man. I really did like Celeste. Sorry, Steve. I guess I would pick Spider-Man, but I don't think that was my game of the year. What do you think of this year? It's kind of a stranger one, huh?
Yeah, this is definitely one of those years where if 2017 was a year where I looked at everything and it was like, oh my God, all this is so good. 2018 felt like the year where I tried to understand a lot of this stuff. Like I tried to understand like the appeal of a Red Dead Redemption 2, which like, look, I get it. I get that like 100-hour Western prestige TV show, but a video game thing makes sense. And I get that. And yet it's still, I bounced off of it very quickly somehow at the same time. Like
Steve and Kevin love that game. I'm just not interested, I guess.
Yeah, like and like it's not like it's, look, I say that and I also realize that like I've always been weirdly adverse to I'd say I'm weirdly, you know what, actually no, that's kind of a lie too though, because like I would say I was like weirdly adverse to like Westerns and Western games, but then like, no, I beat Red Dead Redemption 1 and I thought Red Dead Redemption 1 was like fantastic. But like 2, like I don't know if it was all of these systems, the idea, horse balls, like realistic horse balls and all that, did that change everything? Like I don't know. I'm sure you'll point this out. This is just like 2018 in general. Here's another one too. You really think about it, isn't it weird that again Nintendo didn't really get like a major nomination? I mean, Celeste is on the Switch, but like,
yeah,
it was on everything.
People don't associate that with Switch though.
Right.
Yeah, I guess it would have been Smash Brothers Ultimate, but it came out too late in the year. It came out December 7th.
And they carry, and not to spoil too much, but you might hear that name again. So yeah, that's
the very next year. Yeah, they carry that over. 2018 was also like after the big huge year of 2017. 18 was like the Wii U ports. We had like Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. We had Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze New Funky Mode or whatever. We had what did we have in January? We had like some manner of Wii U port. Oh no, that was January 19, where we had New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think Tokyo Mirage Sessions either this year or the following year gets like
20.
Oh, wow! The pre-Rona times.
Yeah, it was the last game I beat. Yes, it was the last big game I beat before the Rona. That's why I remember.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
So yeah, but speaking of JRPGs, 2018 was fucking phenomenal for them. I mean, that saw Octopath Traveler. We saw Dragon Quest 11. Probably my two favorite art JRPGs of that time period. I think Octopath 2 is better, but that didn't come along till now, right? So,
right.
Shit. I mean, we ate good on that, but yeah, as far as like the big AAA stuff, no. I mean, it's just horse balls, as you put it.
Yeah, I mean, I want to understand like I feel like I would enjoy like an Assassin's Creed Odyssey if I actually bothered to play it, but I've also been very averse to like. Again, it's another one of those things where there's so many of these games where even like a Celeste, I get the appeal of a Celeste, but I never it doesn't, just not for me, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
How I would put it. Like precision platforming, if it doesn't have like a red cap or what have you, sometimes that just doesn't really quite do it for me. But
I get you.
And like, if I was being an obtuse idiot who didn't understand like any of the rules of how this worked, honestly, Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition would have been my favorite, but I'd never do that. I'd never pick a random, like a game that's just a remaster of a thing, never, no siree.
No, you would never do such a thing ever. Okay. I never, yeah, it was a good year for me, but just none of these nominees do really a thing for me. I do like Spider-Man, but I didn't play that until the Rona. So, anyway, let's move on to 2019. The nominees include, for Game of the Year 2019, Control, Death Stranding, Resident Evil 2, oh no, a remake. That's a different game, we know that. Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, and The Outer Worlds. but the winner was Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. Trey, I'm sorry, this one's depressing. Like, out of all the years, this one is the most annoying to me. The Outer Worlds got fucking robbed. That game is phenomenal. Out of these nominees, that should have easily won. And don't get me wrong, I love Smash Ultimate. I even love Resident Evil 2 Remake. Death Stranding, interesting. Not a great video game, but very interesting. I'm glad I played it. I mean, we're going to talk about Control in a second, but I'm sorry. Sekiro, that's the From Software privilege I was talking about. They're treated like it's... Man, I have the perfect analogy for this, and I don't think I should say it on the air.
Oh, no. Say it, and then if it really is that bad, you literally could just bleep it.
Fine.
The second word to bleep.
Fuck it. No, fuck it. I'll say it. They treat From Software like white people treated OJ. He ingratiated himself into white culture, man. He wanted to be. He didn't want to. He's the
Don Ohlmeyer.
Yeah,
we're the Don Ohlmeyer of. We're like, no, you can't. No, Norm Macdonald, you can't be making OJ jokes on this television program. He's my buddy.
I'm sorry, man. It's true. There's From Software privilege that, like, Atlas is not going to get. I'm just saying.
Probably
it's true.
Not, no.
Okay, I mean,
it carries on.
But yeah, you love Control. I famously do not like Control, but I'm sure that's your pick, isn't it?
It's either Control or Resident Evil 2 Remake, because one thing I fucking love about Control is, and I'm sure that this is going to be the other part where you're kind of like looking like a little dubious about it, is I am a sucker for games that just say, okay, we're going to do a weird ass thing in this specific style. In this case, obviously, it's like, Twin Peaks, and then like with a smidgen of X-Files, we're going to do some stuff. It's not going to make a lot of sense, but go with us. This is a ride. That's how I've felt during that entire game. And I love that. And I know you're probably going to say that the actual combats, the gameplay, the part that admittedly is very important. I thought the combat was perfectly serviceable, and I realized that that's not always a great argument for video games to say, this trying to play it, this is okay, but sure, it'll be worth it. There's kind of always a little bit of a deceptive thing, but I never had that big of a problem with
it was the combination of the combat not being great, like engaging. It wasn't, like you said, it's perfectly fine, but for a game like this, it needs to be more than that. And it wasn't. That combined with the level design, I just found pretty snoozy. I did not really like traversing those places, and I didn't find it interesting. It was the combination of those two things that did me in. I was like, I tried for 4 hours, and I'm like, I feel like I should like this, and I don't. But
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, man, Outer Worlds. I'm sorry, it's probably one of the more underrated games of our time. I think that game is phenomenal, and it does not get the respect.
Turns out when you get the good writers of the Fallouts, and they'll do good writing on Fallout style thing, and then you keep a lot of the good combats and keep a lot of the good elements of there. It turns out it's going to probably be pretty good.
Probably might turn out all right. All right. Let's move on to 2020. The nominees included Animal Crossing New Horizons, Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, oh no, it's another remake, Ghosts of Tsushima, and Hades. But the winner was The Last of Us Part 2.
Yay!
Oh boy, Recreational
Hooray!
Sadness, my favorite. Oh wow.
Especially during a sad year.
Yeah, during a sad year. Well, two things. One, do you like how Resident Evil 3 came out like in April 2020? Like, and the intro to that game basically was like what we were going through. It was insane.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
It was so wild. Secondly, this is kind of a weird ceremony, the Rona year ceremony.
Yeah. You go back to especially 2020, God, how eerie all of that content look. I'm not stating anything that isn't already like obvious, certainly in our time, about like how just eerie and weird it all is, that how everything being silent, whole like football games where you just look at it and you're like, you hear crowd noise and then you look at the seats and you're like, oh yeah, there's no one here, make people fake that noise. All of that stuff always will just look just so uncanny.
The weirdest one for me was a 2020 World Series where like people are sitting in little clusters in the stands because they were allowed to let in like 11,000 people at the neutral site in Texas. And the people are sitting in little clusters all around the entire stadium. And it was weird, man. You know what was the best? The NBA bubble, because you could hear everything those guys were saying. Like, it was great. it was my favorite. Yeah,
that did rule.
But anyway, yeah, it was a weird time for everything, including the Game Awards.
Yeah, although not only what a weird year in general, but then this is also we saw this a lot with like the movie industry and like everything else, where it felt like everything else most definitely either shut down or just outright stopped or slowed. And yet somehow, just because of the nature of game development, God, this was actually a pretty good year.
It was great. We ate pretty good, huh? This was a pretty good year for games, honestly. Really was.
Yeah. Animal Crossing is one of those experiences that I want to go back to once every 5 years. And thankfully, that's how they release them. They wisely know exactly the amount of time when you go like, boy, I'd like to play another one of those adventures. And it worked perfectly in 2020. But I feel like as I'm kind of going back to it, I can't help but like be impressed with how audacious and huge Final Fantasy VII Remake ended up being.
Yeah. I waited for PS5 because I knew they were going to do that. That's where we got our famous trailer that says graphics on PlayStation 5, one of our favorite phrases on Fine Time. And yeah, man, it's amazing how that game looks exactly how you think it would. Like, they did such a good job of preserving those pre-renders into like basically putting them in full 3D the way you exactly think they should look, with the combination of post-processing too, with the motion blur, with like everything. It looks so good. They nailed it in that aspect. You have to, whether you care about Final Fantasy VII or not, and I'm one of those people who just always thought it was fucking K. I've always liked the look of it artistically, and they did that really well. Out of these nominees, obviously, New Horizons for me. Doom Eternal is a great game. All of these games, I have not played Ghost of Tsushima. Hades is fine for me. But yeah, Last of Us Part 2, blah, obviously, not my kind of thing. But let me float this theory by you, okay? You know how there's such a thing as Oscar bait? Like a movie that's just like fucking fine, like Monsters Ball. The movie's fine, right? But like it's almost seems designed to get somebody an Oscar, like because they're gonna have this powerful performance where they they do this or that, and it's about a topic that's dour as hell, and like I feel like The Last of Us Part 2 is that type of Oscar bait. I'm not saying they made the game to get a game award, obviously. That's stupid. But clearly they wanted some sort of prestige from this because they treat it like it's higher art than I think it really is. I don't know. Am I off base here?
This is one of those things where, and I kind of didn't really think about this so much from past game awards that we brought up before this, because of course we're really only going by the main nominees, but I feel like they just end up getting in this real weird era where, like you said, it feels like they care way more about like, well, this game is about emotions and performances and this and that. And here would be a very good example. We can go back to 2015 where the lady from Her Story, do you remember Her Story, by the way?
Yeah. Barely.
She beats the guy that plays Geralt in The Witcher, and of course, like everybody else, obviously Kiefer Sutherland and all that, for like best performance in the Game Awards. And with the idea being that this is like a game about, oh, this character has all these personalities, or you have to detect her by her performance, all these things. And it's, since apparently we're in a post Night Trap world, as I've always said, where it's not, goofy comical performances that, you could just read into whatever, like, friggin' Dana Plato, slumming it for a check or whatever. Like, these people are actually quote unquote trying, I guess. I've always kind of felt that maybe it's that combination of all those things that make people respond to the later Uncharted's, obviously probably from 4 on, honestly, because I feel like 1 through 3 are just like goofy Indiana Jones knockoffs where Nolan North says kitty got wet like over and over. To 4 where they're like, we have a story, it's about a lost brother, it's about all this, it's about these themes.
That's why Celeste got nominated, because it's an important story about mental health and yada yada. Like, that's why it was there.
Yeah, and although admittedly The Last of Us is not really our thing regardless, but I feel like at least Celeste had some basis of gameplay. Again, I'm not a picture perfect platformer type person, but I can at least sense that there are people that are, and that works for them, versus I'm not sure, has anybody, how about I put it like this? Has anybody ever played The Last of Us Part 2 and said, wow, that is amazing gameplay?
No. And all I've ever heard about that is like, people telling me how I'm not supposed to enjoy. You're not supposed to have fun while playing this. It's supposed to make you feel like shit. And, that's like, whoa, man, how about I like go play something else then? I don't want to, like I said, I don't do recreational sadness. I'm sorry. And it's okay if you do. At the same time, nobody has ever said, oh man, I love that sequence where you gun down these guys, or all I ever hear is about how fucking depressing and morose this game is. That's all I hear.
Yeah. And honestly, at this point, considering what they're doing now with like the HBO show or anything like that, there's almost no point for me to even play the game at this point. I would rather just watch the show, because at the very least I can understand recreational sadness on prestige television, because that's kind of the appeal of it. That's kind of the point of it. It feels like it's still not really my thing, but it still makes way more sense to me. I mean, I don't want to do the whole dance of being like, well, games should always be fun and this and that and this, but there are ways that games can challenge you in a way that like actually involves, playing the game, I would say.
Killer 7 isn't fun, quote unquote. You delight in the fucked upness of it, right? There's no delighting in the fucked upness of something like The Last of Us Part 2. It just makes you feel like shit. Killer 7 doesn't make you feel like shit. You're like, oh man, this is so wild. Let me see more. Anyway, we should probably wash our hands of all this hatred and move on to 2021.
Washing your hands, which is good, because now since we all washed our hands, sorry, I realize you have to do the actual intro part. I keep interrupted that.
No,
crap.
I'm keeping that. I'm keeping that. We
okay.
washed our hands
we
a lot.
We all washed our hands. We did a whole bunch, and then we got everything clearly got better, quote unquote. And then we're here.
Oh yeah, now we're here where there is no Rona at all.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm not on my 3rd or 4th booster. All right. The nominees for 2021 Game of the Year include Deathloop, weird, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village. Mommy Milkers. But the winner was It Takes Two. Trey, what the fuck? What the hell happened? It Takes Two?
It still makes me laugh. It's so insane.
That's
like,
bad. That's bad, right?
That is genuinely, that is
that's objectively incorrect. I'm sorry. I know we're talking about video games here, but please.
Yeah, I could see literally every single game that is in this nominee list. Well, actually, I'm probably not Deathloop, honestly. Probably everything else, even a Psychonauts 2 that Psychonauts wasn't totally my thing, but at least I could understand that argument. Certainly can understand RE8, because for whatever, all of that, or, Ratchet and Clank having them very, very neat, nice SSD effects, and then nice transitions. Even if that seems like that's quote unquote more gimmick than actual substance, it doesn't matter. All of those things still read better to me than a game that obviously was quite mid already. Obviously, the game itself's kind of felt like warmed over milk over time. Isn't it a huge problem? Where what's this? Hazelight, which makes It Takes Two. Isn't it a big problem when a studio that's supposed to be known for these story-driven games makes one where, on immediate surface and maybe even just outright, you just look and go, "That doesn't look like a very good story."
No,
that's their thing.
Yeah,
it's literally their thing.
It's wild. This is going to be one of those outliers. Think about other award show outliers. My go-to is always Steely Dan winning the album of the year in 2000 with Two Against Nature. I mean, they were up against Kid A, the Marshall Mathers LP. That was a great year for music, and fucking Steely Dan snuck in there somehow and won that shit. I was like, get out of here, please get out of here. I don't think I've watched it.
I love Two Against Nature, but at the same time, it is a wholly hilarious idea of having Radiohead and peak Eminem. For whatever you could say about them, it's really funny. Far be it from the Grammys to ever just reward something that's extremely popular that's not actually particularly good one year.
Yeah.
And then this one time they're like, no, it's about the art. We're talking about Donald Fagen, Walter Becker, kicking it back in again.
The Grammys loves giving Lifetime Achievement Awards without giving Lifetime Achievement Awards. They love to do that shit. And I feel that's what Two Against Nature was, which, look, I don't know if they won Grammys before that. They probably did because Steely Dan, but come on. Anyway, I guess another comp that's more in recent memory is Green Book, the 2019 Best Picture, Green Book. I mean, maybe that's insane. A better comp.
Green Book or Crash was a good one too.
I'm not going to harp that much on Crash. I understand, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a great Best Picture winner, but I don't think Crash is as egregious as some other shit. But yeah, I hear you.
I think it's more that Green Book is way more like a Driving Miss Daisy than anything else. And you're every 30 years, they just have to be this racist white dude's got to figure out that maybe he doesn't need to be that racist anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm amazed that Gran Torino never got a nomination for that, because that literally, they made this movie so he could say some slurs, and then
yeah, they did. They sure did. They absolutely did. Maybe. Maybe Metroid Dread would have won if it would have said the N-word a couple times. I mean, I feel like
oh no, never. Well, honestly, the director of It Takes Two, Joseph Fares, a couple of years prior to this, quite famously got up on the stage.
Yeah.
And during one of the presenting things, and he goes "Oh, fuck the Oscars," and then does the middle finger thing, and Wario 64 uses it in GIFs all the time, bringing up this thing, and it was a relatively viral moment for that thing, and far be it from me to assume that maybe people did actually like this game. but it really feels like that was like another, like, oh, this guy that did this funny thing on our show has this game and people don't hate it that much. We must think we must sure give him the award. Let him talk for 5 minutes about whatever. Like, that feels like the entire reason to me that happened. Cause I still can't totally understand it past that.
I agree. I kind of agree. I had the same thought when he won, and I would kind of put it out of my mind at the time, but I kind of agree. All right, let's move on to 2022. The nominees for the 2022 Game of the Year include A Plague Tale Requiem, God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Forbidden West, Stray, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. But the winner was, as we all predicted, Elden Ring. I kind of exactly, let's start there. That we all knew Elden Ring was going to win, right? I don't really feel like anything else stood a chance.
For the style of game that FromSoft put out for that entire generation, and I'm just going to be full disclosure, I have not played Elden Ring. I don't believe you have either.
Nope.
We're way out of our element on that, but I'm also fairly confident that it just wouldn't really be for me. But that's fine. From what I've gathered, it does seem like that is the peak of how they did their storytelling, how they've done like all their stuff. I do feel like this particular year was kind of another 2018 for me, where I just didn't totally glom onto enough of the stuff that I should have to tell you if any of it. I'm sure you'll probably say Horizon. I haven't gotten to Horizon yet.
Forbidden West is incredible. Forbidden West is so good. You'll love it when you get there. I think you will really, really enjoy that game. I don't know if you played the original Zero Dawn. I think it is way better than that.
I have played Zero Dawn, and I've quite enjoyed Zero Dawn. So yeah, that does sound right.
I think this is even better in the DLC. Ooh, baby, yes. Yeah, that would be my choice here. I have not played Xeno 3. Stray was pretty good, but again, hey, that brings me to the next point. I feel like there's a bit of indie tokenism, huh? Like, how did Stray even get there? And don't get me wrong, I really liked it. But I feel like they always want to sound, oh, we gotta put in. It's like when the Oscars do, like, they always, oh, we gotta put The Lion King or something, even though we know it's not going to win. But we got to appear to be with it. Kind of like how what you were saying earlier about like, oh, a movie needs to be quote unquote important for it to win something, which is why something as fucking cool as like John Wick 3 or something will never win an Oscar like that. Because like, shit, I think the one of the few times like the Oscars aligned with like the consensus that way is what? Shit, Return of the King? Was that 20 years ago?
Yeah, or and the closest that they even like got to any sort of thing, and it involves comic book movies, would just be like, you know, when like the Dark Knight, when like Heath Ledger got nominated and won for Dark Knight, and even then, obviously that has all the, you know, posthumous elements, all that stuff,
right?
But I also think that it really does a big disservice to Stray to even nominate it here, and I mean that in the sense that Stray is a very good game. I greatly enjoy it. I feel like it is a great experience that I hope people get to play, especially if you love cats, like we both do, obviously.
Yeah.
And you know, you care about animals, all that sort of stuff. And I like the world that it presents. And as you said, it does not work in this nomination, and like for what these other games are, it does not. It feels like the odd game out here,
for sure. And like, people say this is the year where the Rona caught up with the industry and there wasn't that much good stuff. I disagree. I feel like that was 2021. Like, I feel like 22 is better than 21. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think I definitely enjoyed this year more. Whether it was Gran Turismo 7, I don't know, man. I like this year a lot, personally.
I also think that this is where I think we'll get you bring up Gran Turismo 7. I feel like we can bring up a very interesting argument that sports games, especially, it gets real weird, especially with the Game Awards when it comes to this stuff. We make jokes about the fact that, like, when the Spike Video Game Awards happen, they would literally just go on, okay, what's the coolest sounding thing that we can say won Game of the Year? Oh, it's the football game? We're going to say Madden won. Okay, here's Bubba Sparks. He's going to play a song from Madden. And then they're just going to just forget about it and then have like a 10-minute category where they're like, hottest babe. Of hottest babe, is it Brooke Burke or is it
Bayonetta? Well, they wouldn't even. They don't even ever pronounce
oh, they wouldn't
Bayonetta.
nominate. They would say, oh yeah, they were like, oh no, too leggy. No, I don't like that. That's not crazy. Too leggy. You don't want that.
You bring up a good point, though, because I don't want it to go the other way where it's just completely brain dead, where it's like COD wins every year or Battlefield or something. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want that, of course. I prefer it the way it is now. I'd rather, like, certain stuff get shut out versus, like, well, let's look at the top sales of this year. Okay, I guess, the Ass Creed is going to win for the 4th time in 6 years. Like, I don't want that. Mm-hmm. So.
Also, like, honestly, it kind of just brings up the idea that, like, the Game Awards do a pretty decent job of rewarding something being away for a while in a weird sense. And I say that I say that and I realize that sometimes that's not entirely true. I mean, we've literally talked about 4 From Software games that all are very, very similar in around that same period.
Yeah.
But what I specifically would mean would be like God of War comes out in 2018. Well, we're not going to see another one of those games until 4 years from now. How about we put it like this? Like 2 years ago, what game won Best Sports and Racing Game at the Game Awards? Crash Team Racing Nitro Kart.
Get the fuck out of here, please. Come
Put
on,
it like
man.
that. That's also kind of a thing where Metallica wins it again instead of, like, I don't know, Death Heaven.
It's a metal acts. Do we want to talk about the Bill Clinton kid real fast? The guy who, like, which was like amazing, and everyone, that people got so mad. That's what I want to talk about. People got so mad. And I'm like, who cares? Oh my God. People got, he could have hurt somebody. That was a security breach. People got so fucking upset about this. And I was just like, God.
He might be anti-Semitic. And it's like, well,
he's Jewish, brah.
yeah. 1, yeah. 2, like, and then that whole saga was admittedly very hilarious. Although it also led to one of the funniest tweets that has ever been put out there, was it when Keeley posts the thing that, like, the stranger or whatever
the individual who got on stage at the Game Awards has been arrested or something like that. It's like, you didn't really have to tweet that, but whatever. But Jason Schreier did that interview with him, and Jason Schreier, I guess, said something to him in Hebrew, and he understood it, but, like, he pretended he didn't understand it, I guess.
He's playing a character. God forbid.
Yeah. He's like, he almost cracked character, but not really. But that's what Jason Schreier said anyway. But, like, that was funny. I'm sorry. Everyone can stop. All right. It's prediction time. So by the time everyone hears this, the nominees for the Game Awards for 2023 will be known. We're recording this in October, so we don't really know them yet. So we're going to make some predictions, and by the time this comes out, we will obviously know if they're true or not. I think Tears of the Kingdom will be nominated for Game of the Year, and in fact, it will win Game of the Year. Trey, I don't see another scenario that can be true. What else even stands a chance? If you got something, name it. But
no, I mean, I think I feel like I could even predict the 5. Maybe not fully predict the 5.
Go ahead, do that before we get out of here.
Let's go. Spider-Man 2. Well, I guess it'd be 6. Then in the case it'd be Spider-Man 2, Tears of the Kingdom, Mario Wonder. Although that actually could get interesting if it's 2 Nintendo nominees. Mario Wonder. Probably going to be Starfield, honestly.
Okay.
And then the other two, that's going to be the part where I kind of have to kind of rack my head and be like, I'm not sure.
What's the indie darling
maybe
this
Resident
year?
Evil 4 remake, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, Resident Evil 4 remake. That would probably be.
Is there an indie darling this year that we can
see? That's going to be. I would have said Vampire Survivors, but Vampire Survivors got nominated last year.
Yes, it did.
And that's not in there. And also, to be perfectly fair, I feel like everybody kind of has gotten their fill of Vampire Survivors.
Also, it's Vampire Survivors. I don't know. I don't think could like Remnant 2 be a dark horse nominee? I don't know. I don't know if people have really fully in the same way that you have. I don't know if people have fully been like, oh, Remnant 2, this has been my game this year. I mean, it certainly is possible, though. I mean, we also are talking with 2 months left of releases, right? Oh, Alan Wake 2, Alan Wake 2, Alan Wake 2.
Maybe that could be the swaying vote. Yeah. I don't think COD's gonna get I don't think Modern Warfare 3 gets touched.
We just went through this whole thing. I don't think there's been a single COD. I don't think they do that.
There hasn't been. So. No. There hasn't been. Even when the games have been quote unquote better, that's true.
They're in the same categories as sports or whatever's. I mean, they're just not going to happen. All right, well, I guess that's about it. Thanks for relitigating all of these shits with me. That was fun. That was as fun as I imagined it being. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining us, rather. You can follow us on Twitter at Fine Time Podcast. Check the description of this podcast to find our other names on social media. See you next time. Bye.
We'll see you next time on Fine Time.